Every engineering graduate starts at the bottom, low salary, limited responsibility, proving themselves every single day. But here's what most entry-level engineers don't realize. Your career path isn't automatic. It's not just about working hard. It's about understanding the levels of engineering and making strategic moves early. Some engineers stay stuck in execution roles for years. Others move into leadership, strategy, ownership, and high-impact positions much faster. The difference isn't talent, it's direction. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the different levels of engineering careers where you can realistically end up, and what separates those who climb from those who stall. And stay with me until the end because I'll explain how to position yourself to move to the next level faster than most of your peers. So let's talk about the first level of engineering, which is where you're a beginner to engineering concepts and you're learning them in school. So of the 4 levels I will discuss, this is the first, and at this stage you're putting in a lot of effort, studying long hours and doing a lot of assignments to learn all these theoretical concepts that are going to be necessary to solve engineering problems. And you may be doing a bit of hands-on stuff, kind of depending on your program and where you are in it. There may be some lab stuff or some where you're doing projects with CAD or even with actual equipment and hands-on real world. But it's very limited, if any, contributions to actual real world projects in the broader economy. So during phase 1, you are putting effort into learning. You're banking on your future potential to add value to the engineering economy from this learning, and you're banking on being able to earn a living from this. And so although there's overall pretty minimal value added to the overall economy and to actual engineering projects, you do attempt to add some value by doing some research projects for professors. I mean, some of these are purely just theoretical stuff for the sake of knowing, but others do have potential applications in the real world. But internships are going to be the bigger things that you're going to contribute at least a little bit to some real world projects, although quite minimally. And then maybe some organizations at your university that do some projects. A lot of times it's like race cars or building model rockets and stuff. So these are more for proving yourself than for adding value. Let's move on to the second level, which is where you do get into the workforce as an entry-level employee, or you could say that this also works if you went into academia and got a job at a university as like an associate professor, the early stages of that. But mostly this is going to be for entry-level jobs at companies. So you're still in the learning phase, but this time you've stopped having to spend tons of time on checking boxes of requirements at universities in order to learn a bunch of theoretical concepts, and now you're actually learning tasks that directly add value to the economy. So it's almost like you're starting to be an apprentice where you're not just learning a bunch of theoretical solve stresses and beams that you might learn in college, but these are actually stuff that the company is working on. They're teaching it to you as you progress through these tasks. So you're actually starting to add value to the economy, and you are getting paid to do so as a result because you're adding value to the economy. And so you are still overall viewed a little bit as a liability, not entirely, but you're there more for your potential to add value later as you learn than you are for the value you add now, just because you still are in that learning phase where you need quite a bit of help. Even if you're one of the smarter people from your college, there's still a lot to learn in that case about the business world and how your company solves these problems, or even just how these problems in general are solved in the real world rather than in school. So this is going to take some time. But when we move on to the third level, which is when you're more of an independent contributor, so you might call a mid-level employee where you're overall pretty independent in the tasks that you perform. You don't need nearly as much guidance, at least not on the fundamentals, from older engineers. And so you start to earn more at this level because you have experience and you have skills, And so you're actually adding value independently to the company or team. And you also start to teach some people at the entry level. It doesn't necessarily need to be senior engineers doing this. You can certainly teach someone who you're like a few steps ahead of, or especially if you sort of recently learned the things that they're currently learning, or you've recently solved problems that they're currently trying to solve. You are a bit more relatable to their position, so there are definitely pros to this case. And your manager and team can turn to you to solve problems and complete tasks, and because they know that you have the capability to complete them. They don't view you as someone who they have to constantly handhold with and stuff in order to get you through things. They view you as a competent employee who can get through things. And so, although you can complete tasks independently, you're still doing so under the parameters decided by people higher up, or the managers, or the more senior level engineers, because you don't have a ton of power to input onto the design or analysis guidelines or methodology of whatever your team is doing. So, for example, whatever design constraints that your manager or your team has for certain types of designs or whatever type of project you guys are doing. Like, for instance, what's an acceptable edge distance on a bracket hole? What's an acceptable tolerances on certain dimensions? Or what are acceptable types of elements to use for different scenarios in finite element analysis? You don't have a ton of power necessarily over the methodology that the team is using. You might not have seen some of the more niche or unique problems that can come up in these types of problems, and that's why the team and the managers are not necessarily turning to you to make these high-level decisions yet, just because you're not quite at the point where you've been there for so long that you've kind of seen most things. And so you don't have tons of complex improvement of processes or accomplishments behind you, even though you can get the tasks done overall. But that's going to take some time where you see problems and you have your own solutions to them that you put forward. And that's how you get more and more to the senior level and the next level that we're going to talk about. So you're not necessarily viewed as a leader or a decision maker, but you can get things done on your own. And let's talk about the fourth and final level, which is when you're a leader, you're a decision maker. So you're not just an individual contributor, and maybe you actually are a manager or just a team lead or something, but you are at the top leading a team or just helping to develop the processes and methodology that the rest of the team follows, or that other people on the team follow for certain processes. And so because you're more in a leadership position, whether you're a manager or not, and you actually are helping to spearhead the more high-level processes for things, your compensation for this is going to increase significantly because the value that you're adding has been multiplied. You're actually flowing down your work to help make other people below you more efficient and multiplying the value you add that way. And that's part of why leaders, managers, and let's face it, CEOs and stuff get paid so much, is just because all the value that they bring comes from everyone below them adding value pretty much, whether it's fair or not. That's how that all works. But here's how you could end up at this fourth level is, like we talked about, by showing early on that you can independently solve problems, independently spot opportunities for process improvements and such. And so as the senior engineer, you can expect to spend more time in meetings to make decisions. You can spend more time guiding others through roadblocks if they come up, or anyone who has problems, you might be talking them through it. You'll also have had more experience with more niche problems and developing tools to speed up processes. And so that way you can actually create processes like macros in Excel, or program certain tools in CAD or FEA or whatever engineering tools you might use in order to quickly perform tasks and speed up processes. So you'll be respected as the person who leads and knows where the team should go and how to collaborate to get things done and how to make things more efficient. So those are the 4 levels of engineering and the 4 levels of value you can add to the economy and earn more and more. And so if you found this video helpful, I invite you to like this video and subscribe to this channel to continue hearing more about engineering careers, how to be successful in them, and an insider perspective on them. And thanks for tuning in. I appreciate the view. I hope to see you soon.